While millions of people are shouting at their televisions, painting their faces, and letting their emotions rise and fall because 11 strangers lost a game, there's a huge group of people who feel absolutely nothing. Neuroscience suggests their brains may actually function differently. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear might completely change how you see the sports-obsessed people around you. Here's what no one ever says out loud. Not caring about sports doesn't make you boring. It doesn't mean you lack passion. And it definitely doesn't mean something is wrong with you. In fact, something incredibly interesting is happening inside your brain. Something fundamentally different from the nearly 60% of Americans who follow sports like a religion. Let's start with the obvious question: why do so many people care so deeply? Humans are tribal by nature. For thousands of years, survival depended on belonging to a group. Your tribe protected you, hunted with you, kept you alive. Modern sports are essentially ancient tribes, just with better logos and merchandise. When someone watches their team, their brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It's the same chemical responsible for the love you feel toward family and close friends. Crazy, right? The brain literally convinces itself that these millionaire athletes are part of its own clan. But here's where it gets interesting. People who don't obsess over sports often have what psychologists describe as lower tribal dependency. Their sense of identity isn't tightly tied to group belonging. They're more individualistic. It's more likely to think, I don't need a tribe to feel whole. And research backs this up. A 2019 study found that people with low interest in sports showed significantly less us versus them thinking. Translation: they don't automatically dislike someone just because they support a different team, but things get even stranger. When you look inside the brain of a hardcore sports fan during a game, that feeling you get right for opening a gift, that rush of anticipation, that's dopamine. Sports fans experience that same dopamine hit constantly during games. Every play, every moment. Tiny bursts of reward over and over again. It's addictive. Brain scans show that watching your team activates the same reward circuits as gambling and other highly compelling behaviors. And the real fuel behind it? Uncertainty. You don't know how the game will end. That unpredictability keeps dopamine flowing. It's intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive reward pattern psychology has ever identified. The same mechanism that makes slot machines so powerful. Your brain doesn't care where dopamine comes from. It just wants more. People who don't care about sports simply don't get that dopamine response from watching competition. And surprisingly, this may be genetic. Research from the University of Chicago suggests that differences in dopamine receptor genes can predict how much someone enjoys competitive spectator activities. Let that sink in. Your complete indifference. 2. Whether the Lakers win or lose might literally be written into your DNA. There's another layer to this. Sports fans experience something called basking in reflected glory. When their team wins, they say, "We won." When their team loses, suddenly it's "they lost." Notice the shift. People who aren't into sports tend to have a more stable sense of self. They don't need external victories to feel successful. Their self-esteem is less dependent on outcomes they can't control. Now, before this turns into a debate, this isn't about what's better or worse. It's about understanding real psychological differences, and they're fascinating. Here's a surprising twist. Sports fans often score higher on certain empathy measures. They practice caring deeply about the struggles of people they've never met, simply because they wear the same jersey. So why don't non-sports people feel that same empathy toward athletes? It comes down to empathy allocation. Everyone has a limited emotional bandwidth. People who don't follow sports tend to direct their empathy elsewhere toward personal relationships, social causes, creative work, art, ideas. A 2021 study found that people with low interest in sports scored much higher in openness to experience and appreciation for beauty. They still crave meaning, emotion, and connection. They just find it in music, nature, creativity, and thought, not scoreboards. And let's be honest, sometimes not caring about sports is a defense mechanism. Maybe gym class wasn't kind to you. Maybe sports culture felt exclusionary. Maybe the aggression never made sense. Or maybe you simply never understood why grown adults scream at televisions over a ball. Your indifference might have a history, or it might not. Both are valid. Here's why sports fans and non-fans often struggle too. Understand each other. They experience meaning differently. Sports fans find meaning in narrative, the underdog, the comeback, the rivalry, the dynasty. It's real drama with uncertain outcomes. Non-sports people often see that randomness and think, why emotionally invest in something I can't control? Performed by people I don't know. That doesn't affect my actual life. Neither side is wrong. They're just two different ways of satisfying the human need for story and meaning. One finds it in championships. The other finds it in books, relationships, creative projects, or discoveries. Researchers call this parasocial investment versus direct engagement. Sports fans build one-sided emotional connections. Non-sports people prefer investing where their effort actually matters, where they're participants, not spectators. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, known for his work on flow states, found that deep absorption can come from countless activities. For some, it's watching sports. For others, it's literally everything else. And here's the quiet truth. People who don't obsess over sports often report feeling more present in their own lives. They're not spending hours living someone else's struggles. They're living their own. So what does all this mean? If you don't care about sports, you're not missing something essential. You're just wired differently. Your reward system, your empathy, your sense of identity there, tuned another way. The next time someone asks, "Did you see the game?" and you genuinely don't care, remember this. You're not broken. You're not boring. But you're just playing a different game. And that game might actually have higher stakes. If this resonated with you, you'll probably want to know why quiet people process information completely differently, and why that might be their greatest advantage. Click one of these videos to discover why you think differently than the crowd.